Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wisconsin After School Network STEM webinar for this month. We have a number of individuals from Wisconsin DNR who are going to share some resources with all of you today. Dolly Ledeen, who's also on the call with us, is the STEM consultant working with the Wisconsin After School Network, and is someone who can provide some additional information and learning around STEM in out of school time. I will put some contact information and our website, a number of links in the chat box if you are looking to contact the network for any of those resources. And without further ado, I am going to hand off to our first presenter this morning, Marie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marie Jensen. I am part of Snapshot Wisconsin, which I will explain to you in a bit more about what that is. I'm part of the DNR, and I'm more specifically part of the volunteer management team. And I will be presenting today on some educator resources that our program has. With that, I will share my screen. All right, does that look okay? Are the cameras in the way at all? Please. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm part of Snapshot Wisconsin. Our agenda for today will get you familiar with our program, and we'll go over what resources we have. So that involves more structured lesson plans, also some more free-form activities, and we'll finish it up with our Zooniverse site. So first, what is Snapshot Wisconsin? We define Snapshot as a community science project for monitoring wildlife through a statewide network of trail cameras. And so we partner with people all across the state to monitor these cameras, and those cameras produce data that supports wildlife management. We have two main goals of the project. As I mentioned, we're supporting wildlife management with data, but we're also increasing public engagement in natural resources, and we're making sure that folks are having a positive experience out in nature and also with the department. You might be wondering, what do I mean by wildlife management support? And these are just some examples of what our data has gone towards. There's deer population metrics, fur bearer population mapping. We do a lot for the elk reintroduction areas, helping support their population work. And those are just a few examples of things that we and our volunteers have contributed to. And a little context on our project. Started in 2015, but launched statewide in 2018. We have just under 2,000 volunteers that host over 2,000 trail cameras, and all those folks' hard work have produced over 80 million photos. So really an astonishing group effort. The map you're seeing on the right there is the state divided into survey blocks. Those orange blocks are where folks were hosting a camera at the time of the map generation. The white blocks were empty or available, and the blue blocks are the elk reintroduction areas. So as I mentioned, we do a lot of work there. Snapshot cameras are placed at a higher density, sort of strategically in the elk reintroduction areas. And then we have volunteers that sign up and come and monitor those cameras as well. Educator engagement is a really big pillar of our project. We have over 200 educators who are currently hosting a camera. And through some survey work, we found that they reach over 15,000 people, individuals, annually through their education efforts, which is really cool. And we'd like to think that this project is an entry point for conservation and outdoor recreation, not only for the students, but also for the educators. So no one needs to be an expert before getting involved with Snapshot. So the first major way that you can get involved with us is hosting a trail camera. As I mentioned, the project divides the state into survey blocks. They're 3 by 3 miles. There's 6,000 of them, so many opportunities for wherever you'd like to host. And that involves deploying and maintaining the camera. Basically, every few months, go out, swap the SD card and batteries, and upload the photos. Once you do upload the photos, you get the first look at what the camera saw. And you can also classify the photos. So take a look at a photo and say, that's one antlered deer, one fisher, so on. We've had a lot of educators report that this is the main way that they use their camera with their classroom. So as a group, going through and classifying the photos. So for example, this is one fisher. You may be wondering what is required to host a camera. We do ask that you have access to 10 or more acres of land, public or private. I know this can sound like a big barrier, but we try and emphasize that this is fairly accessible. The map on the right is all the counties in Wisconsin that have a wildlife area. A wildlife area is just one type of public land. There are many, many different types, county parks, city parks, state parks, so on. So if you or your school or organization don't have land or school forest, that doesn't mean you can't participate. I'd also like to mention that the 10 acres is a flexible number, especially when it comes to our educators, because we know the impact you're having is really important. So if you have, a good argument for a smaller piece of land, we definitely encourage you to still apply. It's all humans that are looking at your application, so we can definitely open the door for that conversation. Next up, we ask that you have computer and internet access to upload the photos. And we ask the ability to check the camera at least every 3 months. And that is just based on how long the batteries and SD cards typically last. So with that, that covers what is Snapshot Wisconsin and hosting a camera. Now I'll dive in a little bit more and do a really broad overview of our lesson plans. Let me take a little water break. So this is our website. You can get there by going to dnr.wi.gov and look up the keyword Snapshot Wisconsin will be the first thing that comes up. I'll also put links for all this in the chat when I'm finished. And on our website, you can head to the Explore Snapshot in the Classroom tile, which is in the bottom left. And that pops up to a page that looks like this. All our lesson plans are on this site. They're divided in those tabs by grade level, so offer K through 12. And they cover a broad range of topics. The older grades get into more, measuring biodiversity indices, some more data topics. The younger ones, observations and just identifying animals off-site. All of our lesson plans have an educator handout with key concepts, instructions, time requirements, so on, and then any other sort of student handout or material is linked below as well. These are all free to download, and you do not have to be a camera host to use these. So these are just broadly involving Wisconsin wildlife and wildlife observation. You do not have to have a camera to use these lesson plans. We also have curriculum connections on those educator handouts, which folks have reported have been useful. If you have a program where you need to fulfill a certain curriculum, we have those connections on there to make sure you're fulfilling any requirements that you need. We also have some more free-form activities if your program, you're not necessarily looking for curriculum-based activities. So on that same Snapshot in the Classroom website, you may have seen these other two tabs. Excuse me, I got a little bit of cough. Okay, there's the Activities tab highlighted here. So these do not necessarily align with any academic standards or weren't made with the standards in mind, but still highlight environmental education, Wisconsin wildlife, so on. So we encourage you to take a look if that sounds up your alley at these activities. And then you may notice right to the left, there's also a flashcards page. Yeah. So we offer multiple decks of flashcards to test your wildlife ID skills. We have a variety of difficulties. So these are screenshots from the beginner level, but there's beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then we also have a birds only deck and a canines only deck. So testing your fox, coyote, wolf skills, which can be quite difficult. You can print and laminate these, but if you don't have access to a laminator, I can probably help you out. I have some limited resources, so I'll put my email in the chat and you can let me know if this is something that you want some support on. Finally, another really cool resource we have is the data dashboard. I'm gonna take a quick water break.
Marie, I think you accidentally muted yourself.
Oh yeah, just didn't want to make my water sounds all too public. Okay, so the data dashboard. This is a really cool visualization tool that we have that takes the data from the project and makes it more easy to understand for the public. So on the dashboard, you can select from 19 species of interest, and you can see a map, percentage of cameras that are detecting that animal in that county. You can explore camera detections by hour. So the example here is bear. You can see slight peaks at dawn, but especially at dusk. And you can explore just many other sort of data metrics that can inform you about the animal's behavior and the animal's range and so on. You can access the data dashboard from the link below, which I will put in the chat, or it has its own tile on our website, which I showed earlier and will also link in the chat. We've had educators take their own spin on what to do with the dashboard. There's many different ways you could spin this. Science concepts, literacy concepts, really the opportunities are endless. And to wrap us up today, I'm going to talk to you a bit about Zooniverse. So this is something that's online. So if you have access to, a computer lab or devices, and you need a rainy day activity, this could be really ideal. So Zooniverse is a crowdsourcing website for community science projects. So community science projects such as ours post photos online and the general public help to classify them or comprehend them. As I mentioned, our project produces millions and millions of photos, and our hosts and our staff can't classify all of them. Many of them get sent to our Zooniverse site. It's a great learning opportunity, a great way to connect to other individuals. You don't have to have a camera. People do this from all over the world. So, for example, this critter would be identified as canine, specifically a coyote. There also is a small social aspect, so you can like and tag cool photos. And the site is moderated constantly by multiple moderators and Snapshot staff, so it's a safe place for anyone to be independently. This is what Zooniverse looks like in the classify sort of interface. You get a photo, or specifically a trigger of 3 photos. And then you have the panel on the right with species to choose from. But you do not have to be an expert. There are so many resources built into this interface to help you. So you say, okay, well, I think this is a turkey. You click on turkey. And it produces some photos, examples of what turkeys look like, so you can be absolutely sure. But then it says, oh, often confused with grouse. I don't know what a grouse is. Excuse me. So you hover over grouse, and it pulls up a picture of a grouse with some description. So you can say, oh, okay, definitely not the same animal. And then you can classify one adult turkey. If you're extra, you have not sure, no idea where to start, there's this really great field guide. So you can just go by the body shape. So for example, birds, and it'll go into this whole in-depth narrowing down what you're looking at, really helping you identify the animal. So it can be a great learning experience. There are data processes in place where photos are getting looked at many times before a final classification is made. So you don't need to be too worried if you're not a total expert and you might be making mistakes. That's okay. That's part of the process. So with that, that's my sort of short little presentation. We encourage you to host a trail camera, get involved in Zooniverse, and check out our website for any lesson plans or activities you might want to use. And with that, I will take any questions from the folks listening in today.
Marie, do you have any idea of types of groups that have used this and the kind of work that they've done?
Yeah.
Like, have there been, like, we have two people here from Girl Scouts
Mhm.
and other after school programs. Do you know about people who have used this program and how it's worked for them?
Yeah, we've had, of course, plenty of, K through 12 teachers, but also we've had lots of nature centers do it. I think we have had some scout troops do it before as well, monitor a camera. I'd have to double check on that. But in the situation like nature centers, they have, a staff member monitors the camera and then they use those photos in educational activities. Some of ours, or independently designed one as well. That's a
Okay.
good point. I do think a YMCA in the
Yeah.
chat does have one.
Yeah. So Tracy, who's in Fond du Lac, right? Is there a way to know where the trail cams are?
That's a great question. So privacy is a big thing that's important to us, since many of these are on private land. So we don't share locations of cameras beyond county level. If you were, like interested in seeing photos from your county, that's not something that we have in place just yet, but it's actually in the works. Having a photo library that you could search by county is coming this year, hopefully.
So I'm wondering if there's a, and maybe this is a future discussion, but if there's any way to link educators who might be using them in the same county. So for example, maybe Tracy, maybe you could talk a little bit more about what you're interested in, but I'm just thinking that like maybe there are teachers or other educators in Fond du Lac County who are doing this and might be willing to share with Tracy. Tracy, do you want to clarify
That,
your question?
yeah, that's kind of where I was looking at going is if I know like one of the elementary schools is hosting or something that I could maybe partner and do some because I run the 4-H program here in the county. So they might be doing some of this in school or they might be doing it elsewhere. So I don't want to duplicate. If somebody else is already doing it, I could just help enhance that
Mm-hmm.
process.
Yeah, on a case by case basis, that definitely is something that I could help you with. I could dig around, see, what's going on in your county, reach out to them first and get permission and whatnot. But I wouldn't worry too much about, like duplicating. If this is something that you have space for in your schedule, there are 6,000 blocks in the entire state that need filling. So, we encourage you to host a camera, but I'll put my contact information in the chat. And if it's something you are interested in, I can look into it.
So, Maria, if there are educators who are interested in doing this and they don't have a property, can you in any way help match them with a property that might be their host site?
Yeah, our team can help with that. There's no big tool for the public to use necessarily. But if you're really struggling with figuring out what public land is in your county, you can shoot us an email and we're happy to help you. we'll put.
Does that kind of answer your question, Tracy?
Yeah, I think so. So I am with UW Extension and we are housed in a county building, which happens to be a university. So I have public land. I think I would just need to get permission from somebody in order to set this up. So I don't know who I'll need to contact for that, but we have like a wildlife prairie. So we could probably get some really cool things.
Yeah, stuff like that is perfect. So when you'd apply for the block where that overlaps with your little parcel of land, and it'll ask you a question of, you know, is it land that you own? Is it land that your organization owns? And once you got accepted, we have staff members who would give you the next steps to say like, oh, can you get this signed by your organization leader or something like that?
Tracy, are you the county 4-H educator? For
Yes.
Fond du Lac? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Kimberly and Nick, do you have thoughts about how Girl Scouts might use these programs, or any questions for Marie?
I don't think we have any questions right now. I think we're just kind of seeing what educator resources are there, and we have some different Girl Scout properties through our region that we wanted to know kind of the parameters if we were, just because we might discuss if we want to host a camera on one of our properties.
For sure. And you might have a sort of a unique, you know, opportunity as a Girl Scout troop versus a classroom where maybe you can go out to the camera together and everyone can do the whole checking process together and that sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
so always
absolutely.
contact us with any ideas or questions. We love to help out.
I may
Awesome,
have
thank
missed
you.
this. I'm the director of education for Bedgerland Girl Scouts. Kimberly is one of my education specialists, but we have two camp properties, one out of La Crosse County and one here in Dane County. Is it one camera per property, or is there a chance that we could do more than one camera given the amount of space? For example, Camp Brandenburg here in Dane County, we have a lake, and the lake is quite large. We privately own it, and I walked it last week looking for sheds and found a whole lot of other dead mammals that I would love to try to identify where they're coming from, why. But then we also have a newly found den at one of our campsites that I would like to know what's inside that as well without, you know, putting my head in there.
Yeah.
So we're curious to see if we could get more cameras than just one based on that property. And then La Crosse just as big. We have a beaver dam that we'd love to monitor. We have some game cameras, personal game cameras, and we have I can't speak to whether it's a wolf or a coyote based on the footage that we have, but it's either a very large, well-fed coyote or a very small wolf based on its girth. But so yes, we're more than welcome to host some cameras and really figure this out. Kimberly brought this training and this knowledge to my awareness. So
yeah, so the number of cameras is just solely based on the grid that the camera is in, the 3x3 mile grid. So if your property is large enough that it is encompassing multiple grids, we can certainly get you set up. We'll do the first one, make sure that, you know, it works for you, and then we'll add on more cameras. If, like you mentioned, you have this really sort of diverse situation going on your camp land, we have, you know, made exceptions, put multiple cameras in one block before for situations like, you know, educators and whatnot. But that would just be something that you discuss with us after getting set up with your first camera. And oh, to answer Tracy's question, is there a cost to hosting a camera? No, no cost involved. We send you all the equipment, camera, the batteries, the SD card, any replacements you ever need. If you don't have an SD card reader, we'll send you one too. We want to make sure that there is no cost to participation.
So should we move on to Liz? And then if you have more questions that you think of for Marie, just post them in the chat.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being patient with my cough. Getting
Thank
over
you.
cold.
All right, I'm just gonna work on sharing my screen quick and then we can get started. All right, can everybody see that okay?
It looks like you're in presentation mode.
Because when I
So
had
we
it up
see-
earlier, it was not. So I'm not sure why it decided to change to that. I think it's because I'm running off of 2 computer screens right now.
Yeah, presenter view is checked on the top. You see where it has monitor automatic and underneath it says use presenter views checked. I know.
My bar was over the top. Now I see it.
Technology, right? There's so
I know,
many
you'd think we'd have
little
this figured
things.
out after the hundreds of Zoom meetings that we've done. Can you see my screen? It just told me it was stopped.
Yeah, you're not sharing anymore now.
Oh, no.
Beautiful.
All right, perfect. So thanks for having me on. My name is Liz Hersman. I'm a wildlife educator for wildlife management. My home office is out of Horicon Marsh. And essentially, I'm just going to give a quick little introduction to wildlife areas and some of the resources and contacts. A lot of the programs that we offer are on a case-by-case basis as far as what the individual group needs or wants. So really just, this is a informational piece to let you know what's even out there from a wildlife area perspective and how we might be able to assist in that regard. So I think Marie mentioned it, but nearly every county in the state has a wildlife area in it. We have about 270, if I remember correctly. I did post a link in the chat that goes to the DNR webpage that links wildlife areas by county. So that way you can just click on whichever county you're in and you can see if there's an open space by you. Now, there is a difference between wildlife areas and state parks, which you'll hear a little bit from Scott about in a couple of minutes. Wildlife areas do not require a park pass or a fee to enter. And they are what we call a little bit more rustic in that regard. They are not necessarily properties, or at least not all of them, that have designated hiking trails or infrastructure. However, some do. Some have boardwalks, some have trail systems, and there are a number of them that also have educational facilities and staff along with that. So depending on what you're looking for and what area you're in and how close your wildlife areas are, know that there's definitely outdoor space somewhere around you for you to utilize. It's just a matter of looking up each of the different properties, what they have to offer, and how that might be beneficial to you. Some have boat landings, so if you're a member of a scout group and you wanted to do some sort of a outing, that might be an option, although we don't necessarily have the rentals along with all of them. So just to give you an idea, there we go. So we have 3 different education centers across the state that have full-time educators at those facilities. These facilities, the properties also have a bit more infrastructure, meaning we've got miles of hiking trails that are designated hiking trails. There might be boardwalks along with those. Some of them have biking opportunities where there's bike trails going through the property, at least on top of some of the dike tops. So in our northern district, we have Cracks Meadows Wildlife Area. Lauren Finch is our educator there. In what we call our West Central District, we have the Mead Wildlife Area. Sam is our educator there. And in the Southern District, we have Horicon Marsh. I'm the wildlife educator from that facility. And we also have kind of a roaming educator in Milwaukee County. She does not have a home base, a facility, an education center, but she's going to be doing a lot more external programming, going into the schools, running public meetings, a lot of urban wildlife opportunities there. So that is Jessica's role. So if you're in the Milwaukee County or general area around it, she would be a person that potentially could come out to where your location is and do programming for you. So what can we offer at our properties? As I mentioned, a lot of it comes on a case-by-case basis where we're going to tailor your needs to what we already might have as curriculum. And so we do have self-guided hiking. As I mentioned, there's a number of hiking trails across those properties. So if you're just looking for a space to get your groups out, to do some self-guided work, maybe you already have some scavenger hunts or some different materials that you want them to do, that space is available. Our facility at Horicon, we also partner with our local library. So we have a storybook trail, which is nice. If we are not available as our staffing is limited to do programs, there are certainly opportunities to get out and about, have some of that cross-curricular influence with literacy and physical activity as you're out on a trail. Most of our work is done as educational programs on our sites. So if you're nearby any of our education centers, you can certainly work with us as educators if there's something that you have an interest in. If time allows and if distance allows and budgets allow, we may do some offsite programming. If we can't, we offer virtual programs for a number of different topics as well. So that might be an opportunity. We work with a lot of schools to do virtual programs on a particular topic, and then that's supplemental to what they're going out and doing then as well. And some of our facilities do have educational trunks, which I'll talk about in a moment. So again, just to kind of give you a little bit more in-depth as far as where each of these properties are located, this is Creeks Meadows Wildlife Area and their education center. They're located in Grantsburg, Wisconsin, so way up in kind of the northwest part of the state, basically into Minnesota. So they have a really wonderful property. They do have full kitchen and bunkhouses, which is something that might be a consideration depending on what you would like to do. Lauren Thomas, I know it says Finch, she just got married, so it's Lauren Thomas is their educator up there. So she would be your contact at Creeks Meadows. Moving south to our kind of central part of the state is Mead Wildlife Area, which is located in Milladore. And Mead Wildlife Area, I should have mentioned above as well. The website that I have listed here is for the Friends group of Creeks Meadows. Each of our facilities have friends groups that kind of host a website that has all of our events and public programs listed. So that's what these websites are here. Sandra or Sam is the wildlife educator at Mead, and she's been there for about a year now and is really getting some great events running, but also a lot of new programming as well. Basically has redeveloped the program at that facility and is doing an amazing job. So she would be your contact if you were interested in heading up to the Mead Wildlife Area. And then as we continue to move further south, we've got the Horicon Marsh Education and Visitor Center. That's the facility that I work out of. We're in Dodge County, Wisconsin, right here where the star is. And we have a giant woolly mammoth statue out front to make sure that everybody is nice and welcomed and knows where the place is, because Horicon Marsh, if you've never been before, is a 33,000 acre wetland that has 2 other nature centers on it, which can be confusing. So we just always say, if you're at the place with the giant woolly mammoth, you're where you're supposed to be if you're looking for us. And my name is Liz. Again, I am the wildlife educator there, and would definitely be a contact for this general area. Something in addition that our facility offers that others do not is we have a multi-million-dollar family-friendly exhibit that was put in 2015 that goes through a lot of the history, ecology, wildlife management of Horicon Marsh in a really hands-on and interactive way. This exhibit was designed for kids and families. And so there's a giant woolly mammoth in there. There's, as you can see here, an airboat simulator that you can actually drive through the marsh, and a variety of other things. And these are open to the public, including any scout groups or after school groups that would want to come through. It's self-guided, so you would just work with us to set up a day and a time so that we knew when you were coming. We also have a group rate for any of those that are coming through. Group rate is $2 a person, which we feel is pretty reasonable. And it's a great entryway into learning the history, the ecology, the management of the marsh, and then hopefully giving you that inspiration to go out and explore our 5 miles of trails, maybe do some other activities. So for some self-guided groups, this is always a really nice option in case, again, our staff are not available for particular programming. So the last one that we have is Milwaukee County. This is Jessica. As I mentioned, she does not have a facility, although she will work some out of some of our parks facilities, like Haven Woods. She'll also work at the Forest Ecology Center. So there's a number of places that she will use, but she's also going into the schools quite frequently and doing external programming. So she even covers a little bit outside Milwaukee County if it's necessary. So she's certainly a great option for that southeast part of the state if that's where you're located. I did mention that some of our facilities have educational trunks. These are on our strategic plan list to update, but we do have them available at a couple of our properties. The big one that we have for most of our properties is a mammals trunk, where essentially you get a curriculum, there's skulls, there's pelts that come with it. You're in charge of picking it up and dropping it off, but you can essentially check those out for 2 weeks, and you can use any of the materials that are in there. We have a lot of after school programs and scout groups and 4-H groups that will check those out and use them for a variety of different reasons. So just know that there are some of those available. We're working on hopefully developing some more throughout the upcoming years. So stay tuned at that. There used to be a number of these trunks at some of the different CISAs as well, but as people have turned over, we've kind of lost track as far as where all those trunks are now located in the state of them. So we're also trying to, and it's not just wildlife management, this is kind of across the board, working with DPI as well, trying to figure out where all those trunks are located and what shape they're in, and see if we can revamp those in coming years, because we know sometimes just grabbing a box of materials and having those at the ready with the curriculum designed is a really great way to be able to offer that in a little bit more following your schedule of what you may be able to need. So that is kind of the gist of what we've got for wildlife areas. Again, if you're particular to any of those ones that are located across the state or one's closer than the other, check out those websites for the Friends group. There's going to be a lot more details as far as opportunities, the different types of programs that are offered. Also look at the public programs. If you're with scout groups and things, you might be able to just say, hey, Mead Wildlife Area is doing this awesome kite festival in August. Check it out. It might be a great opportunity for you. So just knowing what's out there that are open to the public is a really, really nice aspect as well. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there was anything that popped up in the chat or any questions that people might have for our wildlife educators.
So Liz, one question I have is, so there's the 3 sites, and you did a great job of summarizing what's available at those, where there are educators. But then there are all those other wildlife areas all around the state. If they were to want to visit Brooklyn Wildlife Area or Avoca Prairie, or I don't remember what they all are, but one of those other wildlife areas, would it be wise for them, or is there a way for them to contact a staff person just for tips about when's a good time to go, or what might I look for, or is there any sort of communication available for the other sites?
Yeah, that's a little bit more tricky because we have essentially wildlife biologists that are the property managers for each of those sites. I don't know if they have those listed, the particular property manager on each of those websites. So I think, let me see here, they might even be shifting those to Switchboard. I'm trying to remember. Sometimes they'll just send those to a central location. If you have particular questions about a site, yeah, they're sending it to Switchboard. So what would happen is if you did have a particular one, it would have an email address that you could send your questions to. And then our staff that work Switchboard would divvy those out to the property managers, and they would hopefully be able to get in contact with you, at least give you some tips and some ideas of what to look for. They may not be able to offer programming because that's not their specialty, but they could at least give you some information about the property. Although look at those pages, they're pretty inclusive as far as parking lots, boat landings, that if it has a hiking trail. And we're actually redoing all of those wildlife area pages as we speak to make them even better and more user friendly. So stay tuned. Hopefully over the next 6 months, we'll be rolling that out as well, so that it should be really user friendly for people to understand what each of those particular properties offer and where everything is. But do know you can just shoot that email to switchboard, and they would potentially get that out to the staff that run that property.
Cool. And also then kind of linking this back to Marie, it would be cool if educators could, if they're near a particular wildlife area and that particular wildlife area has a camera, even if the educator doesn't, that maybe they could help monitor that camera at that wildlife area or something like that. I don't know if there's linkages that could be made there.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's definitely a possibility for those sort of relationships to form. I think they would probably have to go through Snapshot first to find out if there's a person there. So yeah, as I mentioned, if that's something of interest to you, having access to someone else's photos, just let me know and we can talk about it.
Just brainstorming how,
Yeah.
People might be able to get connected. Any other questions for Liz?
Not really a question, but I do look forward to contacting you directly to talk about how we can take some of the curriculum you've already had and worked on to help our Girl Scouts learn more about our natural environment.
Cool. Thank you. Well, let's move to Scott, who can talk a little bit about the other properties that are in Wisconsin, which are state parks.
Great, thanks, Dolly. My name's Scott Johnson. I'm the statewide natural resource educator for the Wisconsin State Park System, which is a Madison Parks Bureau job, but I'm stationed out of the Rhinelander Center because I was living and working up here 7 years before this position opened. And just to circle back on the question for Marie there at the end about Snapshot Wisconsin and state parks, we're working to see if we have many of our properties have cameras in them, but there are also gaps we're trying to fill. And I've been going to district meetings recently and telling the managers that if they have an interest in hosting a camera to help fill one of those gaps and they'd like to work with a local school in their community, that I work with the environmental ed consultant for the Department of Public Instruction, so I can try to connect them with teachers in that area. So if you may hear that in your area coming down in the future as well. So let me share my screen. Can you see the Wisconsin State Parks? Okay, I put this, I dropped the link for this in the chat. It's at the very top of the chat. It was before most of you came on. And that is your one-stop shop for everything that we're going to talk about. The Wisconsin State Park System isn't just parks. We have 124 properties that are parks, trails, flowages, rivers, you name it. So if you go to this page for Find a Park, did you see my screen change? So now you see the state of Wisconsin, and if you zoom in on this, every tree is a property. And if you zoom in, then the names of the properties pop up. So you can see where in the state you're located compared to what properties are near you. We do charge admission to come into the state park system to use our trails. Generally, we do. There are a few exceptions, but most of them require a sticker, which could be a daily sticker, which is $8 for a Wisconsin resident, or you can get an annual sticker, which is $28. And that sticker goes on your windshield of your vehicle, and that is good at any state park property for the entire calendar year. Although the governor just signed legislation 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday only, that beginning January 1 of 2025, the state park annual stickers will go a month to year. So if you buy it in April of 2025, it'll be good till the end of April of 2026. So that's a change that'll be coming down. One other part with the sticker admission cost, if you have more than one vehicle at your household, they're registered to the same address, you can get a second annual sticker for $14 or a third or a fourth. And so those are a great Christmas presents as well for you. So on that page, you can find a park, talks about the admission stickers, state trail passes. There is a link here for nature programs and events. And if you go to nature programs and events, you can type in a location. there are highlighted what's coming up here. Like today, there's a groundbreaking for a lodge that one of the Friends group is going to be building down in Lapham Peak. And then you can also take a look at what events are happening. There should be more than just the events in here. Let's see here. Here we go. Farther down, it says education and learning. And if you look at education and learning, there are some lesson plans in here. Some nature discovery kits that tells you what type of equipment or supplies you should have if you want to learn about birds, frogs, canines, trees, you name it. There's a few lessons here for you. There's also a listing of what nature centers we have within our properties. Some nature centers are newer and some are older. It's a mix of all. Nothing like Liz has at Horicon Marsh. That is the top of what we have in the state DNR for our properties. But then you can click on these and it'll tell you, we do have a program called the Wisconsin Explorer. This isn't for schools or organized groups. This is for individuals, like a family would go to one of our properties. But if you are an after-school program group, you can download the booklet and then take it with you to the property and then take part in activities to learn about nature. We do have some seasonal educators. It's hit and miss depending on the property. Most tend to be from the end of May until the end of the summer or into the fall. We have a handful of properties that have part-time education staff year-round, but that's only if a volunteer friends group is paying for those. We currently only have 3 full-time educator positions filled in the state park system. Myself, Devils Lake State Park, and Haven Woods Forest are the 3 locations. We do have 2 others, one at Peninsula and one at Northern Kettle Moraine at the Ice Age Center, but those are empty and frozen right now and not open for filling at this point. So generally you'll go to our properties, there's a lot of recreational opportunities and self-study, and that's where that Explore booklet will help you, but there's not a lot of staff except during the summer times. And then one other resources is the Wisconsin Wild Cards. There are hundreds of wild cards. It looks like a business card, but it can be based off of plants or animals, invasive species, you name it. Here's an example of different cards. That program started 20 years ago, 25 years ago now, and that some programs are continuing to offer these wild cards and some don't have the funding to reprint them. So you may not be able to find all the cards that are listed. And I did meet with the Office of Communication about this about a month ago. And that's something we're going to be working on is the ones that are being discontinued to get them off of the websites. So people aren't asking for them. And there is an educator kit that you can request as well. There are other partners that we work with, and some properties have unique program opportunities, like at Wyalusing State Park in Southwest Wisconsin, down by Prairie du Chien. They have 2 friends groups, one the Friends of Wyalusing State Park and one the Star Splitters of Wyalusing, which is dedicated to astronomy. And every park's a little bit different with the friends group. A lot of those programs are free to the public. But if you went to a park that had an educator and you requested a program, there is a small fee for that program. If it's less than 2 hours, up to 2 hours, it's $3 a person. Up to 16 people. If it's less than 16 people, it's just $50 flat rate. $5 a person for 2 to 4 hours and $6 a person for 4 to 6. And that's just for kids. We don't charge for adults. And most of that money goes right to the property and then helps maintain their interpretive and education program. Does anyone have any questions? It's a big system, a lot of incredible properties and amazing opportunities. And hope you can join us.
Thank you. Yeah, there was more than I thought you had to share, Scott, with the kits that are available and there are a lot of educational resources to go along with a visit to the park or just to use at your site. So lots of resources. Any questions for Scott or any of our presenters about any of these resources? Or ideas about how you might use any of this? Or challenges or barriers to using any of this?
One more item to mention, since we have a couple of Girl Scout staff here. In September every year, there's a National Girl Scouts Love State Parks that goes on across the country. And so I worked with Nick on that last year, and that's something we're continuing to look at expanding. In fact, I had a conversation with Universe in the Park last week about hosting some events statewide this fall for that. We also have Shakespeare in the park, Universe in the Park astronomy. So look in the area or the property you're going to be going to, look ahead of time and see what program options might be there. Or we don't have a lot of after school programs, but we have a lot of opportunities.
Thank you. We're definitely really excited to continue to look at different resources from the state in particular, and continue our Girl Scouts love for state parks in general. So we'll definitely be digging into all this, and it sounds like either you and Nick or you and I should talk more about this fall.
And one other initiative that it's on a holiday, but there are a lot of first day hikes in the Wisconsin State Park System property. So if you're part of a organized group, those are fun things to go to, along with candlelight hikes or snowshoe hikes. A lot of opportunities throughout the year. There tend to be not during school days, but a great way to get kids out and see our properties and recreate as well.
Great, and I encourage all of you to think creatively about how some of these resources could be connected with after-school programs. And we're really trying to forge partnerships around the state so people find the resources and the people with expertise in their area that they can form a partnership with. As you know, after school educators, and I'm sure Girl Scout leaders, 4-H leaders, sometimes it's hard to do all this on your own, and to know there are other people in your area of the state that have some STEM expertise and resources and ideas to help you. And that's why we want to bring people together. So any other questions or closing thoughts? Okay, Jen, did you want people to fill out a survey or something?
Yes, that is exactly what I was just going to say, Dolly. Thank you.
Okay.
So before we let you go, I am going to launch a quick 5-question poll that we will ask you to complete. If you are attending this as a participant, feedback helps us in future planning and evaluating our learning opportunities. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you to Marie and Liz and Scott for sharing all these amazing resources that are available within the state DNR. And we will continue to share out these resources to those working in after school and out of school time to have access and continue promoting STEM in their programs.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please reach out if you have other questions or ideas to follow up on this.